Hey everyone, it is Natalie from Being Intentionally Creative. I'm going to experiment again today. I want to come up with different things to do. Every once in a while I do really simple videos where it's just, let's just pour a piece just because I need some downtime as far as I don't have an idea that's really unique and whatever. But today I want to try something a little different. Again, that's part of I learned doing that. I hope it's beneficial to you when I do these types of experiments. So you'll see that I have a coaster here. I have a mold over here that is of nutcrackers. If I have leftover product, I want to throw it in there because I'm wanting to experiment a little bit to see how well mixed to mold ceramic resin will work in pieces like this where I've got some really intricate spots. And I've said before that if I have intricate spots in my mold, and I should bring it over here so you can see it, that I let it sit for a lot longer than what is recommended. Like they say you can take the ceramic resin out after an hour. With some of these, there's no way I would take out after an hour because I know they're going to break and I don't want them to. So I just want to see if I have some leftover ceramic resin and put it into some of these spots. Am I going to be able to get the pieces out without breaking them? And I'm really hoping I will be able to do that because I'd like to do some in ceramic resin. Anyway, that's not what our experiment's really about today. Our experiment is going to be using resin pieces that I've already made. And I'm playing with pieces that I've previously made that I haven't done anything with. I've been doing a little bit of a clean out of the multitude of resin pieces I have that I don't like, I haven't used, what have you. And so this is what we're going to do. We are going to take these pieces. I am going to set them down into the mold. And I guess I could do these, well, no, I can't because some are smaller. But I'm going to set them in. I'm going to put UV resin around them. I'm going to cure them. And then what I want to do is I want to mix up some ceramic resin and pour it around. Now, I know I've done the videos with the material and wanting the ceramic resin to sort of cover up part of the material and have other spots where you can see the material. With these, I don't want to have it so much that the ceramic resin is getting under and so you're only seeing a little piece of the resin part. I want you to see most of it. So I'm going to put UV resin under these, cure them, and I know at the heart it's going to be a little more challenging because it's 3D. We're going to do that to the best of our ability. And I didn't realize it had a hole in it. Obviously I should have known. I took a jump ring out of it. Anyway, I also have these other little pieces. I have moon. Yeah, this is a moon. Can you tell? Sorry. No, I'm not. But, so butterfly, moon. I have a star and a heart. And we're going to place these in as well. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put some UV resin. We're going to set them. I'm going to mix up my ceramic resin. I'm just doing white because I want to see. So what is the test all about? This test is about whether or not I can put these in and have the ceramic resin attached to it and pull it out. We know that normally resin has to be put on top of ceramic resin versus it being the other way around. And I've done a couple of little experiments, but not on this scale. And I just want to see if, in fact, this will work. Because I think it's again, another new and interesting way that you can use resin pieces that you currently have that you're not doing anything with, and how they will interact with the ceramic resin when it's put on top of it. And that's what this is about today. It's just, I want to see what will happen. Hopefully I'll pick it up. I've seen experiments where people have put down the metal foils, foil flakes, metal foil, whatever you want to call it. And it picks up some of them, but not all of them. I found that if you put mica powder down, it picks up some of it, but not all of it. It seems to be a finicky type of material. And I want to see how far can we go with this. What will it pick up? What won't it pick up? Kind of idea. So that's what this is all about. I am mixing up 80 or will be mixing up 80 grams of 80 mils, 80 grams of mixed mold. Once I've got this in place, I'm going to sort of randomly put these pieces around it. These should be easier just because they are flat versus this 3D, but I thought a 3D piece would be kind of cool to experiment with. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go away and put these down. And when I've got them done, I'll bring you back. We'll mix up the mixed mold. We'll pour it in. Fingers crossed I'll have my UV resin set well enough that nothing floats anywhere, because that would be unfortunate. And then we'll let it sit for probably an hour to 2 hours, maybe. It might not matter. And then we'll come back and we'll take it out and we'll see what our end result is. So stay with me, because I think this is going to be kind of a cool experiment. And I will be right back. I decided to bring you back a little bit sooner. You can see I still have these pieces to put in. And there's an interesting reason. With this heart, because it's 3D, I put a little bit of UV resin on the very, sort of inside top of it, put it down, and I used this light from Let's Resin to sort of cure it. And then I got thinking to myself, so Natalie, how are you going to get UV resin underneath this to get it set in place? And I'm going, like, you can try and go in the sides, but are you nuts? That's never going to work, and what a hassle that's going to be. What I did was, and I don't think I'm going to put any more UV resin on the heart, but let me show you what I did. Imagine, if you will, I'm trying to find something I can use as. So I would need you to pretend for a moment right now. What I did was I took my ball of UV resin and I just carefully went along the edges here so that the UV resin flowed down the side of the heart and underneath it. So if you go along the edge very carefully, slowly, the UV resin, because of the weight of it, will pull itself down. And like how far under it went, I couldn't tell you, right? Because I'm going to want to be really careful with this. But I just let it, and I went all the way around the heart that way, just so that it would go over the edges of it and slide down underneath the heart, so that we have most of the heart covered with the UV resin. And then I used my Let's Resin UV light, because it does top and bottom, to cure what's underneath. Now obviously it's cured because it's not running anywhere that I can see. Let me just get a toothpick here. Make sure, because there's a little spot back here. But yeah, it's set in place. I want to be really careful because I don't want to, knock it off the silicone now. But it's set enough. I did it for 3 minutes. I said let it sit under there for 3 minutes. And obviously, once we take this out of the mold, if I needed to, I could cure it a little bit longer. So let me I'll show you with one of my small pieces, and then I will go away and I'll carry on. Now, I do want to make sure that I have the flattest side down on these. And I think that's it for that. So I'm going to show you with this star what I mean about what I was doing. And it might be a little harder because that's a smaller piece, but we'll see what we can do. And maybe what I might do is, let me get one of my little containers here, because I'm thinking if I try and do this with the ball, I'm going to end up with stuff. And I have a small one back there that might work with, it's got one of those pinhole needles on it. So let me get that out of the way. And let me get a toothpick here. So we're just going to take a little bit, hopefully this will work for me, just so I can show you what I mean. Yeah, I sometimes hate having gloves on. So I'm just going on the edge here. And I'm just going to let it slide. I don't know if you can see that sliding down the side of it or not, but like that's all I'm doing, is I'm just letting it slide down the side of the piece so that I'm wanting it to prevent the ceramic resin from being able to get underneath it. So I'm just going along the edges, and I'm going to have to, with these pieces, get the light on it sooner than later. And I don't think it's going to matter. I mean, if you get some of this resin on top, the UV resin on top, it's not going to matter. But it's a matter of just letting it slide down the side of the piece so that you can get it stuck in place. So, you know, there is the potential that you're going to see some UV resin. But, and then all I'm going to do is take this light for right now, and then I'm just going to cure it in place. I just thought this was a sort of a better way of doing it than trying to put some UV resin down and push it out. I mean, that's doable, but I want to see how this sort of way is going to work. And that's what I do with the heart. I wanted to give you sort of an example of what I was doing. And I guess maybe what I would have been good is if I just gently pushed the star down into the silicone mold just to make sure it had firm contact with it, which I didn't do. And I'll do that with the other pieces. So I wanted to show that to you because I thought there's got to be, well, how am I going to do this? So that's what I've done. I'm not going to make you sit and watch the rest. I just wanted you to see what I had done with the heart. And yeah. And if you have to, you can always sort of help the resin go down the side by going along the side of the piece like I can with the star, and I'll be able to with these other pieces. Anyway, I just wanted to show you what I had done with the heart, because you probably, you know, hey, I'm all for showing you the tips and tricks that I can. And now I will go back to doing what I was doing, and when I've got them all done, then I'll return. See you in a bit. All right, we have all but one of these outside pieces. One of these outside pieces does not have UV resin attached to it. The other pieces that I put down, I actually pushed them down into the silicone mat just to, you know, get them so they're tight against it before I put the UV resin on it. The heart has nothing around it. This one heart has nothing around it. I just wanted to see if I carefully sort of pour in the ceramic resin, if that heart is, you know, sort of set enough against the silicone that it won't rise. So I wanted to do that test because I thought, well, maybe, you know, if we could do that, that would save you the hassle of the UV resin, and it would also save you the hassle of having an outline. I did clear because I want to see these pieces. I could have added some sparkle to it just to sort of make it look like a glow coming out from it. But again, we're in experiment mode right now. Okay, you'll notice I switched out my silicone mat. I'm tired of having air bubbles in these things, and then I got thinking about making my own silicone mat. So that's a possibility, because I have a board that's big enough that if I made a really thin piece, I could do it, because I want something that isn't going to bubble. The inexpensive mats, I'm just finding they're bubbling in spots and I can't seem to get rid of them. Anyway, enough about my issues with my silicone mat. And okay, so my question to you, if you have a really good silicone mat that's a little thicker than the average, like the ones I've been having on here are the Let's Resins, and they're very thin. There's not a lot to them. So if you have any suggestions for a good silicone mat, I would appreciate you commenting below. Alrighty. Let's carry on with what we're doing here now. We will get out a stir stick. We will mix up again ceramic resins, just white. I don't want any color in this. So, oh, I know what I was going to do just before, because I had something. I had a couple of things in. So bear with me just for a moment, because you know, as much as this is a test piece, I'm a little fanatical about wanting to ensure there's nothing in my mold to the best of my ability. So I know there's a little doohickey. It's a sparkle. It's not doohickey. Don't pull that up. Sugar Shack. Everything's sticking to everything now. So let me see. I can still sort of see this. Oh my gosh, this masking tape isn't the best stuff. And I bought it at a retail store. That's what makes it even so much more interesting. Anyway. All right. I think I got my little pieces out that I wanted to get out. Even test pieces, I'm a fanatic about. All right, let's mix this up. Let's pour this in and see what happens. So we have finally had good weather. We're on our first full week of no rain. Beautiful. Beautiful. I don't know about anywhere else really in the world, but we've been thankfully, it's been dry here. My swimming pool is pretty much gone, although I can't cut grass where it is right now anyways. It's still too wet. And yeah, it's nice. It's nice. I'm enjoying this, although it's been cooler than normal. And I can't believe that we are almost at the end of August. All right. Let's pour this in. And see what happens. So I'm going to very slowly, I'm going to try doing it this way. I'm going to pour this in really slowly. And going around the pieces. Like, I don't want to just, you know, go madcap and you know, throw it in really quickly and whatnot, which, I mean, it is ceramic resin, so you kind of want to do that. But I don't really want to do that. I want to get it in before it starts to set, but I don't want to lodge anything either. All right. So, let's just pour the rest of this in. It's going to be too funny if it doesn't cover these guys. That's funny. Although, you know, hey, that doesn't matter, does it? My heart's kind of, or not my heart, one of my stars is getting covered up, but hey, maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe that doesn't matter. I want to shake it. There's a part of me that wants to shake this, but at the same time, it's like, oh, Natalie, that might not be a good idea. But I guess if we're going to test this properly, I have all kinds of styrofoam cuts. That's what I'm using one today. All right, let's just gently, well, at least around the edges. Yeah, where's your lazy Susan, Natalie? It's sitting on the floor beside me, eh? Anyway, that's okay. So we're going to leave this. I don't know if I want to pour any more on top of that, you know? There's a part of me that does, there's a part of me that doesn't. As I sit here and think in silence. I don't know. I kind of like seeing them a little bit through there. I don't know. I'm going to leave it. I'm just going to leave it. I think it looks kind of cool that way. Now, like I say, I'd be surprised if these weren't, like if the ceramic resin didn't hold on to these, just because it's right around them. That one's almost completely covered up. That one's somewhat covered up. The moon a little bit. That one's somewhat covered up. So let's, yeah. Let's see what happens. And I think too, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make up some ceramic resin just to pour into one of these molds. One of my nutcracker spots here. Because I want to see if I can pull off making these guys with ceramic resin, just because they've got some really intricate pieces to them. Again, we won't be demolding this probably when I do this, but I will bring you back to let you know what happened with my nutcrackers. I'm kind of liking how that looks. Huh. I'm kind of liking how that looks. I don't know. Anyway, I am just going to mix this up. I'll pour it, and then we'll come back when it's ready to take this piece out. And we'll see. We'll just see. I don't know. I'm kind of mesmerized by it right now. Huh. Okay. You don't need to be mesmerized with me. Well, you can be, but I just, there's just something interesting about that right now for me. And I didn't use all the pieces. I don't think I mentioned that. I didn't put all the pieces in. I probably didn't space them. I could have put more in, but yeah, anyway. I'm getting lost in this piece right now. My mind's sort of twirling with some ideas, or just twirling. We will see you when it's ready to take this piece out. We're ready to take this piece out of the mold. What I'm noticing as I'm looking at it is there are a couple of darker spots in the ceramic resin, and I don't know exactly what that's from, but I'm wondering if it just may be some spots that aren't totally dried out. Well, and it isn't totally dried out. We know that it has to sit, but I found that kind of interesting. Anyways, let's get this piece out of here. All right. Okay. Now, I want to set this on something. Okay, I was almost thinking the heart was falling out. We'll have a look at the back in a second. Okay, here's where we're at. Now, I definitely would put this under the UV lamp because it looks like there's some wetness on the heart. Obviously, you're not getting the dimension. There's a pattern on this, and when I say that, it was 3D and it had, I'll call them goosebumps on it. So now it's just a flat heart. I'm thinking if you were to do something like this, your best bet would be to use just flat pieces, because you're going to lose the detail if there is detail in the piece that you're placing down. And a little disappointing in that, but that's okay, right? Like, we may not, I'm not sure how I would fully get that feel without doing a lot more playing with it. Okay, so what am I liking so far? I think so my star over here isn't very good. You can't really tell it's a star, and I think that's probably because I've got too much UV resin on it. My moons aren't too bad. Ooh, as I stick my finger into one of them, and they do need to go into the light. The moons aren't too bad. This heart is the one that was just placed right down onto the silicone. And I think if I were to do this again and using flat pieces, I would just make sure it was firm in. And when I was pouring in my ceramic resin, I would just very carefully, like you saw me do, go around the pieces very carefully, not just dumping it on, but just very carefully going around so it can take the shape of the piece without dislodging it. We can see that we got a little bit of, and hopefully you can see it, some of the ceramic resin obviously got into spots where my UV resin had not gotten. The star is unfortunate because it doesn't look like a star now. It doesn't look like a star now. The moons I'm happy with. For the most part, the butterflies, but I have to say, in this, my heart is the best piece that I laid down. So it's nice to know that if you're careful, that you can get it to sit like down, because the resin's sticking to the silicone, and just be really careful when you're pulling in your ceramic resin. Now, I want to play with this a little bit. I'm not done with it. I want to get some ideas on how I can decorate this up a little bit more, because I do have more of the resin pieces. I think I'm going to look for some of my flat pieces and see about doing more of this, because I kind of think it's a neat idea, especially against the stark white of the ceramic resin. I will be placing this under the UV light, obviously, to get it set up a little bit more. The heart's kind of cool. It looks 3D in there. So that's kind of a neat aspect of it. I kind of like that. I just wish I could maybe figure out a better way of, and maybe, so here's a thought, maybe it's a matter of you put the piece down, but instead of putting UV resin in the center like I did, you just let it go down around the edges as I showed you with one of these other pieces, the star I think it was, and then cure it and see if, that way you might not lose the texture. That was the word I was looking for, the texture on the heart that was there. So that's something I'm going to play with a little bit more. But kind of cool. Kind of cool. So depending on what you wanted to do. So I'm going to let this sit and dry out. Obviously on the other side, my heart's sticking up. Hopefully, can you see the dimension that's sticking up here? The other pieces are obviously down into the ceramic resin. I think I'd like to be able to see the shapes on both sides. So I think I would put less in next time because I like that concept of that. Anyway, so enough about that for right now. I'll finish, I will finish UV light and then see what I can come up with maybe to decorate it up a little bit more. And we'll see about doing both sides. And then I thought if I could decorate them both, then I would put a coating of resin over the entire thing just to set it all in place. But you wouldn't have to. You definitely wouldn't have to. That would be totally up to you. So let's set that aside very carefully because I don't want it to break. And you can tell it's not dry because I've got it all over me. I did a few pieces in the nutcracker. And I want to mention another channel, and hopefully I'm going to get this right, and I apologize if I don't. QutifulQueenCrafts. She had done a farewell to Christmas in July, and she had done some nutcrackers, painted them with Tester's enamel paint. And I have to say, I was very impressed with how well she painted them. Obviously you're seeing them on camera, so you can't see them as close up. And she did comment that she had some issues with painting because one color, you know, she'd get it done and then she'd get, you know, touch some other spots, and it was a bit of a challenge. But I am in awe of it just because of the fact that I think it probably took her a lot of time to do it. But they really look nice, especially with the enamel paint on them. I was quite impressed with it, and I let her know that. So I just wanted to mention in case you want to go over to her channel and see what she had done with them, because they're like multiple colors on these. Like there was greens and reds and blues and yellows. I can't remember if there's gold or silver on it. Anyway, a cool video if you want to see and what she did with them. It was really cool. And I'll put her link in my comments below, in my description below. Anyway, so these guys, they've been sitting for the same length of time. I am not prepared to take these guys out just yet. I'd like them to sit, I'm going to give them 4 hours, and then we'll see if we can get them out of here. So while I'm playing with the other piece, we're going to sit and let this set up some more. Again, as you can see, because I use blue, I mean, we've got some pretty intricate spots here. And like, I don't want to break them. I mean, if I can do this and, you know, let them sit and they come out looking decent, then I know I've got to let them sit for longer than an hour. I'd be scared to take these out now, just because. So we'll let these sit. I'll spend a little bit extra time on that, seeing what kind of design I can put on it. And we will come back when I've kind of, this is set long enough, maybe done something to that, and that may be where the video ends. Anyways, I'll see you in a bit. I thought we would see if we could get these pieces out, hopefully without breaking them. They've been sitting for about 4 hours now. I haven't gotten anything done with my other piece. The interesting part about my other piece is the UV resin, even though I had it probably sitting outside for about 10 minutes, it's still a little tacky, which just seems really unusual to me. But that's okay. And I've been trying to sort of think a little bit more about the heart that was in the center and how I can keep the texture without getting the ceramic resin underneath it because I really like the idea of that texture showing through. So that's something I'm going to have to think about and ponder on for a little bit. But let's see what we can do as far as, is 4 hours enough for these guys to have been sitting to get them out. Now, this star and the two pieces down here at the bottom, I'm not really too concerned about. So let's carefully start with them. I'm pulling away easy enough. And maybe by like sort of taking these pieces out first, it'll kind of help loosen up the other pieces a little bit. And we know the ceramic resin, it comes away from molds really easily. There are all kinds of cool little baubles on this mold, is in addition to the nutcrackers themselves. Wow, how cool is that? Okay, well, let's give this a go. Let's see. I didn't quite get enough in this guy after he was poured. I should have put a little bit more of the ceramic resin in him. I just so want to be careful getting him out. And it seems to be helping a little bit, pushing underneath. It's like, yeah, and grab a part that's thicker. I was almost going to grab that. I'm thinking, oh, don't do that. So far, we can say 4 hours is a sufficient amount of time. Oh, look at that. Isn't that a cute little bell? Just nod your head, go, yes, Natalie. I try and inject humor when I can. Star. I'm trying to figure out whether or not these odd little pieces, especially these ones like this bell with the hook in it, and these, you know, little swords, I mean, everybody seems to have something attached to them. And I'm trying to figure out, like, are these just, you know, extras, use them as you want, or are they supposed to somehow match up with one of these guys? I don't know. I guess you could attempt to do that. So again, I'm pushing up from the bottom. I really want to be careful because I don't want to break them. So, okay, let go, let go, let go, let go. All right. Okay. So 4 hours was sufficient. The idea of pushing it up from the bottom sort of so you can open up the space seemed to have helped me. We didn't break anything, which is brilliant. If I'm going to use resin in this, then I'm going to want to clean it out really well, because I've found in other pieces where I've done this that the ceramic resin actually gives you a dull look on your resin pieces. So I want to make sure I clean this out really well. I might pour some more of the ceramic resin. Going to let these guys dry now, and then we'll maybe see about decorating them up a little bit. Not sure I'll do that in this video, because this video was more about the other piece that I've done. I'm going to go back to the other piece now and see if I can't, you know, come up with some sort of design just because. The other thing I want to mention to you, in the video where I did the tray, the ceramic resin and resin tray, I wasn't happy with the way the ceramic resin side turned out. So I've taken it and I've sanded it down. I just want to let you know, in case you're working with a paste. So I use some of the Simon Hurley paste that he uses on cards, or that you may use on cards. I just want to tell you, if you put that stuff down and once it's set, it takes a lot to sand it off. I was really surprised by how much sanding I had to do with an electric sander, that is. I did a little bit by hand, but mostly with an electric sander. And not a harsh grit, but harsh enough. Wow. And even taking the sun off. I mean, I'm assuming that some of the paint sort of seeped into the ceramic resin, so I kind of get that a little bit, but I could not believe how challenging it was to get that paste off. So just beware that if you're going to put that on a piece that you're doing, and I can't speak for all paste, but you may want to be aware of that if you decide to take it off, it's going to be a bit of work for you to do it. I was shocked. I was really shocked. Anyway, let me go back to my other piece now and see what I can do with it. These guys can now sit and dry out. Really happy they came out without breaking. And we'll see how they dry, because they look sort of spotty right now. But the detail on these guys is phenomenal. And I think if I am going to paint them, I'm going to have to wear my other glasses to do that. But anyway, very cute. Very cute. Okay, let me go see what I can do with my other piece. It took me a while to come up with something of decorating, and it may look like a bit of a gong show on here, and a little bit is, but that's okay. You know, because I didn't have a theme. As I was working on this and trying to decorate it up, I thought to myself, if I did it again, I would want to have a theme before I started. I know this was sort of a random piece to see if we could, you know, embed these resin pieces into the ceramic resin. We know we can do that now. And as much as I have a whole bunch of, you know, random pieces, I think moving forward I would want to sort of think a little bit about what I want in it, how I'm going to decorate it up when we're done, and go from that perspective. Again, this is a test, just playing with it. What did I do? These colors, the red and the green, Simon Hurley has recently come out with his Astro paste. That is the green and the red on here. I wanted to try it out. I was sitting in my other room going, I don't know what to do with this piece. And I thought, well, I want to see how this looks, so here, let's do this. Then what I did was I have some fairy stamps, and I used archival ink, and I put a couple of fairies in where they would fit. And I was really pleased because the fairies are on top of the Astro paste. They're not underneath it. And very pleased with how they look. I did sort of slip when I took the second one off, but I think I covered it up pretty good. Then I had on the same stamp grouping, there were these little stars that I put on, and I used a distress ink to embed these. Again, they're going on top of this paste that I put on, and I was trying to sort of fit them in where you would be able to see them. And the last thing I did was on another stamp set that I have is this little guy down here, and I don't know how well you can see him. Let me get my finger out of the way. Right here. I did him in Villainous, what's it called? Villainous Potion. And I put him in a couple of different spots as well. And I put one way down here, just behind the leg of the fairy. It's sort of the theme of fairies kind of worked with the butterflies and the moon and the stars. So, you know, yeah, I'm winging it. Winging it big time. Anyway, now I don't know. I'm going to hopefully get that sparkle on that Astro paste because it's pretty impressive. I mean, I didn't put tons on, and it's meant for cards, but that doesn't mean anything to me. And I didn't want to cover up. Like, I wanted to leave these pieces without any on it, or I could have just gone totally to town, but I didn't. But it's got quite the sparkle on it. Quite the sparkle. Maybe that'll help you out a little bit to see how sparkly it is. Okay, the other thing I want to mention about this piece is the back. If you're going to do something like this, and I'm going to keep playing because I want to see how to make pieces like this that have texture on the front, that I can get it into it without the mix to mold, the ceramic resin, call it what you want, underneath it to take away from the piece. I really would have liked to have had the texture on this. I think that would have been really cool. I don't. I'm going to try and see if there isn't some way to do it. I don't want an inlay in these. I don't know why. I want the actual piece of resin in these. If you're working with a flat piece, I like the way the heart, this is the one that did not have the UV resin put around it, I think that's the better way to go. If you have pieces that will sit flat, push them down onto your silicone mat, and then, as I say, go slowly when you're pouring in your ceramic resin. Don't just dump it in. Pour it in a little slowly so it can go around them and not try and get underneath them and pop them up. So my test is just try and figure out how to keep it so we got the texture on it. And the other thing would be that only to fill it so that it's looking like these two butterflies, but even still a little less, so you don't have this sort of bump and down into, like there's a groove here where these butterflies are, and some of the others got covered up too much. I would work at making it so it's just level. That would be what I would do. But you do you, as Tim Holtz would say, you do you. You figure out how you want this to go, but that's sort of my makeshift, let's decorate this up a little bit. I think it's cool. I want to play with this a little bit more, and I absolutely want to figure this out. And for the life of me, I don't know why my UV resin didn't set. Jdiction's I really like their UV resin, so I'm not sure what happened when I did this, but anyways, that's neither here nor there. That is your piece. That is my video. These guys I'm going to let sit for a little while longer and then see what I can do with them. And that won't be part of this video. I just want to show them to you. Anyway, I hope you're having a great day. You have found this video helpful. Any suggestions on maybe this heart and keeping the texture so we don't have to do an inlay? Again, I don't want to do that. I want to be able to work with actual pieces. So let me know what you think of the video. Thank you for watching. If you have liked, subscribed, commented, thank you for all of that. I really appreciate it. Take care, and bye for now.